At Strayer University, we help students like you go from, is it possible? To anything is possible by offering access to up to 10 no-cost gen ed courses, so you can reach your goals affordably and fast. Visit strayer.edu to learn more. No-cost gen eds provided by Strayer University affiliate Sophia. Eligibility rules apply. Connect with us for details. Strayer University is certified to operate in Virginia by Chev and has many campuses, including at 2121 15th Street North in Arlington, Virginia.
Meet the most capable CRV Honda has ever dreamed of. The all-new CRV Trail Sport Hybrid. With all-terrain tires and available enhanced traction control, it's built for wherever the day takes you. Heated front seats and a heated steering wheel, ideal for winter drives and crisp early starts. And with generous cargo space, it's ready for big gear and even bigger getaways. The CRV Trail Sport Hybrid. Learn more at honda.com/CRV.
Living with schizophrenia isn't easy, especially when you're not getting relief from some of your symptoms. It can be hard when you're still dealing with symptoms, like hearing voices or seeing things that aren't there. And negative symptoms, like feeling unmotivated or avoiding social situations. If this sounds familiar, it might be time to talk to your healthcare provider and explore a different kind of schizophrenia treatment. Discover your possibilities at treatingscz.com.
So we thought 18 was bad, 19 looks worse. And if you're really, really pessimistic, you look at the autumn series and you think we could be heading for 24, 25. We're going to pick the bones out of Japan. We're going to look for the good bits. We're going to dig deep. We're going to find some good bits. Stick with us. Let's do this week's Wrap podcast. You're listening to Wrap, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Welcome back to this week's Wrap podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as per usual, Harley, Dan, and Nick. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
Now, I will say before we start tonight, before we get into it, Dan was very keen to get going tonight, boys. I don't know what it was, but Dan was on the WhatsApp and Dan was like, come on, let's get going, boys. You know, I think he's...
Felt like it was going to be a long one. Felt like it was going to be a long one. Sooner we can start.
Sooner we get it over with.
It is going to be a tough one tonight. It is. I don't think anybody in Wales is feeling good after last weekend, gents. So let's start, as we normally do, with a bit of news desk from yourself, Nick.
Okay, we'll start off with the Dragons, stroke Cardiff. And as widely anticipated, Welsh international Mackenzie Martin, 21, has joined the Dragons on the season-long loan. My understanding is that the back five forward will be hoping for more opportunities to play at a regional level next season. And it's only just 12 months since he was on the tour to Australia with Gatland. Didn't actually play in any of those test matches, but has caps. But it did played, I think, in the non-cap game against Queensland Reds. So I don't know, have any views of that, Harley or Dan, about that pickup and or him leaving Cardiff on a leave for the year?
I mean, if you can get some game time at Dragons, great. I doubt it because, I mean, they're pretty stacked at eight as we are. I think, again, it just goes to that problem where Gatland was promoting players too soon to testing because he thought, oh, they're physical specimen. And he's, in the past, he's used physical specimens to just solve Wales's problems, and it, when everything else has gone to shit, it didn't really help. And then so Jockey rightly has been sort of playing Faletau and Lawrence ahead of him, who are playing really well. He couldn't drop them, and he's been trying to do some play games to the Rags. I mean, there's been some off-field stuff, but not enough that I think would put him out of contention with Jockey. But best luck to him. Said if he gets some game time, then comes back, great, because he does have the potential to solve a lot of problems for both, regional size and thing with just his size and physicality. I think when we have seen him play, I think the big issue for him is he's still incredibly raw and still trying to get used to his frame, which is probably only going to get bigger at his age. And I mean, I'll give on to Dan as a but as far as I could think about 3, maybe 4 people who'd be position, in the 8-man position over him at the moment.
Yeah, It's an interesting one. I kind of look at it and go, he's probably added some versatility this year playing at the Rags, meaning that he can play maybe 4-5 or 8, maybe 4-5-6 or 8. And the Dragons are probably looking at it thinking, well, it's a loan. He can go back at any time. Or at the end of the year, he's going to go back either way, based on previous injury profiles within the squad and the bad luck we have. Extra numbers are always good, aren't they? We'll lose the likes of Wainwright, I would have thought anyway, during autumn internationals and Six Nations. Are we going to lose the likes of Mint? I can't remember whether Minto's got another year in the 20s or not.
He has, yeah.
He
He's got another
has.
year.
There you go. So there's two lads that we lose straight away, probably to international duty anyway. So knowing our luck, he'll come in, play brilliantly well, and end up going on international duty himself. So yeah, good luck to him. I just think it's a numbers game, isn't it? We need the squad, the strength and depth in terms of squad numbers. So let's watch this space and let's see what he can bring.
Staying at the Dragons, it's been announced that Dr. Ryan Chambers, who was appointed just over 12 months ago to position of head of performance, is leaving for another opportunity, which is a little bit of a shock for me because I think there was a lot of expectation about his appointment. They've made two other appointments to sort of fill that sort of role. They've got Paul Kremlin is the new club's new head of medical services. So given the Dragons' luck with injuries, he's going to be a very busy man. And they've also confirmed that their long-standing staff member, Ryan Harris, is now the club's head of strength and conditioning. So I'm sure they're very busy at the moment with the Dragons back in training. And finally, staying with the Dragons, former head coach Di Flanagan has been appointed attack coach for Saracens. So good luck to Di. I think it was a little bit strange the way things panned out so early in the RC season last year for him. Don't know if anybody wants to make any comments on that.
I just think it's a really good move for him. He's going to an established Premiership team with a real winning environment, having been albeit a while ago now, but 3-time European Cup winners, multiple Premiership winners. There's Owen Farrell, not Andy Farrell, but Owen Farrell's gone back to the club as well. So he's going to be working in a real high-end environment with top-end players, British Lions and internationals from across the globe. So good luck to him, and I really think that we'll see the best of Di Flanagan at Saracens, and it'll be another one of Wales. Look where you've lost out on.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry, Nick. He was attack coach with Scarlets, and he had a massive influence on just how we played the game and that attacking with confidence. I think that's what he brings. Maybe the head coach was a step too far for him at this point in his career, but I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back as a head coach somewhere else in the future, because not only is he's a thinker of the game, but he's got the right attitude when it comes to players. Maybe not the right attitude when it comes to the money men from up top about we need to win and we need to do this, and he's got a much more longer term kind of development sort of a thing, but he won't need to develop a lot of players at Saracens. He'll just be working with players he'll be working with players who are at that high level already. So, I wouldn't be surprised to see him back as a head coach somewhere in future.
Good luck, Di. Pob. And it's been announced that Adam Beard is joining Montpellier. I think the rumours this went back to last December. And good luck to Adam as well. He's been a stalwart for the Ospreys with 135 appearances. Also got 60 Welsh caps and 1 Lions cap. And from what I saw on Saturday, he was certainly missed by Wales.
Well, certainly in the line now.
Yeah.
Well, but then everyone was missed by Wales in the line out on Saturday. Boom, boom, boom. Thank you very much.
I don't know where it is. You seem to be doing all right with it.
And actually, that wasn't a surprise because everybody knew that was happening. But there was an actual surprise for most supporters last week. And for Fifita, 33, capped by the All Blacks, Tonga, has left a long-term contract with the Scarlets early. Back five player will be joining newly promoted Mountbatten in the Pro 14, and he joined the Westphalians from Wasps in 2022 and made 53 appearances for them, and was a very, very good signing in my view. I don't know, Lee. I know you were away on holiday, and it almost spoiled your holiday, didn't it, when you read this?
Do you know what? I was there. I was sitting having a nice little ice cream, and it was boiling hot, and we were watching the boats on the. And I thought, oh, this is nice, and I'll just have a while the wife was kind of looking in the other direction. I'll just have a quick look on social media and all of that, see how the boys are doing with. And bugger me, yeah, it took the wind out of me. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, he's been a superb signing. Don't get me wrong. I think with him, he blows hot and cold, and when he's hot, he is absolutely superb. There's been a couple of games where he's just gone missing, but that's pro sport. You can't play 100% right at the top all of the time. He signed a 4-year contract, which quite a lot of people at the time kind of went, is he too old for a 4-year contract? But at that time, we were hemorrhaging players left, right, and centre. So, we probably gave him that contract to say, you can, let's build a team around you, sort of thing. And then since then, our recruitment's been excellent, and players are complementing each other. Him and Lousy on the pitch at the same time, even him and Plumtree on the pitch at the same time, where you've got the beauty and the beast sort of a thing playing. It just kind of balanced each other really well. So, yeah, I've been gutted to see him go. I'm hoping we've had substantial compensation that will allow us to nick Teddy Williams off Cardiff and fill fill our second row kind of void, you know. But yeah, it is what it is. It's professional sport. It's one of those things where it's thanks for the memories, but you've got to move on, and you've got to move on quick. It does make you wonder why we let Carwin Tuipulotu go instead of bringing him on, because he's playing really well in France. Like, he is carving it up in France. But there we go. It is what it is. We'll see who comes through next year.
Okay. Finally, former Wales defence coach Mike Forshaw has joined Leicester in a similar role. I think I'm not 100% certain about that, but obviously came in just before the World Cup, was it, with Gatland, and obviously did a reasonable job certainly in the World Cup. Probably his sort of stock went down a little bit after that, but yeah, so he's going to be joining another successful team in the Leicester Tigers.
Feels like it's kind of open season on Welsh players and Welsh coaches and all sorts of stuff at the minute. It's not comfortable, is it?
And that's the news. Other than obviously, I don't know if you want to talk about the under-20s. Obviously, they played their first two games. Sadly, went down to defeats against Argentina and also against one of the favourites of the competition, France. And it was in the searing heat of northern Italy. They were in both games for 60 minutes and scored some good tries. But in both games, ultimately, and particularly the game against Argentina, the physical strength of the opposition was enough to see them home. And I think, for me, a lot of the issues we see in the Wales team, we're going to be talking about Japan, the creaky set piece eventually saw us, cause problems, a reluctance to use the bench early, and it's just interesting, how some of these issues are perhaps quite widespread in the Welsh game, and they have a very important game now against Spain, who, in fairness, pushed Argentina really, really hard in their last game. So that's a difficult match to call. But given that we went in with a little bit of ambition and hope, lose that, and it's going to be a very difficult tournament at that level for Wales as well.
And I've got talking about this running themes. I mean, all the girls over on the Women's Rugby Treehouse been saying the same thing about Wales women, and actually for Wales women under 20, they got completely outmuscled against Ireland on the weekend. It seems to be an issue throughout Wales at the moment. Particularly things like not really, being able to throw pretty patterns when things are going their way, but then as soon as things start going wrong, then players start going into themselves and it all sort of just starts imploding. Then you just have error on error on error. You know, Players where you think, oh, we've got good depth there, and then it turns out actually no, we don't.
Yeah.
Players just don't seem to step up.
I thought that the 20s had a real good go against Argentina. They were, what were we, 20 odd 7 up at one point, threw it away. I know I come under a bit of stick in the WhatsApp group for saying that I didn't think the ref the scrum that well. If I'm perfectly honest, I didn't think they managed the scrum that well at all. And there were some other calls around the field where Wales were just compounding. Like I don't think Argentina had to do too much for their field position. It was penalty compounding penalty, and I think some of those were dodgy. So when you go from a scrum penalty in their 22, and all of a sudden you're defending a driving line out, or there's been a handling error, and you're defending a scrum in your own 22, it's really difficult. Where I think Wales actually worked quite hard for their field position and did things properly. I thought, on the whole, they were the better rugby team actually.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
And like you said, we just got overpowered in certain phases. As soon as Argentina started picking and going from 20 meters out, at some point, it was difficult to stop, which I found a little bit disappointing, if I'm honest, because we managed to stop England. When we played. We played on the Arms Park, and we did the same with Ireland as well at home against at Rodney Parade. So, on the whole, I thought it was a good performance. It was a shame about the result. I thought Wales were good value for the win against Argentina. If Wales had won that, I don't think there would have been any complaints from anybody. Wales did enough to win the fixture, in my opinion. And then I wasn't expecting them to beat France anyway. It was stacked with players playing Pro D2 and even some top 14 lads. So I wasn't expecting them to win that fixture.
I think that first game, I think we said
It was
in the last
massive.
recording, was massive, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And one clock roll, and we'd won that game because we scored a really good try on 76 minutes, whatever. I don't think Argentina would have come back if that had been allowed. Small margins.
I totally agree with you. So, yes, it's a gutter really. That was, in a way, that was our World Cup final, wasn't it? That very first one up. But there were some very admirable performances. I thought Evan Minto was very good.
Yeah.
I thought the lad at Fly Off Wild. No, what was it? What? No, Wild didn't start, did he?
Wild started.
Wild started. I thought Wild played well.
No, Ford started that one.
Ford started. Sorry, yeah, Harry Ford started. The boy from Sneggy. I thought he played well. I thought Bosch off on the wing. He's a good player, strong, physical, and Bowen when he come on was like a box of tricks. So on the whole, I thought they fronted up really well, and it's a shame they didn't get over. It was a good game of rugby actually.
It was a great game for neutral.
If you're a neutral, yeah,
all Argentinian,
yeah, it was fantastic. So it was hard lines, and I've looked at the team for the Spain game. They have made some changes. Bedell's gone to 8. They've made a couple of changes in the front row, so hopefully that doesn't backfire, because I think the performances again, pushed France all the way. We're winning it. We're winning at half time. I think we deserve that sort of higher placing. If we slip up because we've made a few changes against Spain, I think it won't be a true reflection of the boys' good efforts.
I tell you, I really rate. I think he's going to be a very good player. Is Sam Scott, the tight head?
Yeah,
he's good scrummager, very technically sound, but also carries well, and puts in a lot of tackles.
Really lacking as we go on to the Wales game.
I think it's early days, isn't it? But he, if he can get some game time, even if it's off the bench for Bristol next year, I think he has got a lot of potential.
There's some of these boys though, and I know they're real young. When you're talking about the likes of Minto having another season in the 20s, but you're kind of looking at them going, well, what have we got to lose by bringing some of these boys into the regional setup now and fast
Yeah.
tracking them, trying to fast track their development a little bit because based on Saturday, there's not a lot. There's not a lot there.
No, and this is the team. A lot of these lads will be the lads who will be in the World Cup after the next one,
Yeah.
USA. So yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, are we all done with the 20s? Yeah. Okay.
Pen
When is
pod.
the when's the Spain game?
What day are we on today? Wednesday.
Friday?
Wednesday.
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 Wednesday. What
Yeah,
time?
2:30.
Oh,
Yeah.
he did
yeah.
well there. Not even a flinch. He was bang on the button there. Well done
It
then.
was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully, right in the middle of a work day. So,
Work?
Yeah.
What's that?
not all of us are ready. Oh, not all of us can or will be able to retire, Nick.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Right. Okay. So before we move on and have a quick chat about Japan, if you're liking what you're seeing and hearing, do give us a like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Makes a massive difference. Next week as well, we are going to try a live pod on YouTube, which we've kind of done it before, but it was just me and Harley watching a Wales game, is basically what it was. And all you could hear was me eating crisps.
Swearing.
I think I was quite restrained on that one because it was a while ago. It might have been in the
Oh,
World Cup,
right,
Harley,
okay.
wouldn't it? Was it in the
No, it
World
was
Cup,
quite.
Harley?
Yeah, it was quite early on my side. I think the thing was, I think I was the swearier of the two.
We were, yeah. So yeah, so what that will mean is next week instead of the pod will still be available as it normally is on a Tuesday morning, but when we record on a Monday night, we'll record live. So you, Mr. Listener, Mrs. Listener, will be able to send us questions as we're talking about stuff and tell us we're talking a load of bollocks, whatever you want to do. But that will pop up and we'll be able to kind of answer those questions. It will all be around the Wales Japan game. But we're just going to try it, see if it works, and if it does, then we'll find a way of doing it again in the future. And just to let everyone know, next week will be my last one, just because I've got a load of stuff going on, and I've been trying to finish presenting for weeks and weeks and months. And I promised the wife that I will. So next week is my last one. If anybody is a Scarlet or anybody who's neutral who wants to pretend to be a Scarlet and comment on the top level of European rugby and successful players and this kind of thing, drop us a line so we can have a chat about coming on the pod next time. Okay, let's dive into Japan. I mean, who actually got up and watched the game on Saturday to start with? Yeah. How dull are we? How bad do we feel after getting up at ridiculous o'clock on Saturday morning and watching that game? So let's talk positives first. Let's find some positives in that game, and let's look at what really went well. So Harley, you were keen because you were like, I've got some positives, so you can kick this one off. Give us some positives, man.
I actually thought, despite what I imagine we're going to descend into, I thought in the first half our kicking game and our tactics were spot on. I thought we did really well to force errors from Japan, cause them get a few knock-ons. I thought Jack Adams was back to his best. Like thought his defensive reads were perfect when he took the ball. Confidence that what ended up being the penalty try was really good. We were a bit unlucky to have a disallowed one, I think, which was from him grubbering through for a break at the left. It looked really good. I thought that was really good. Faletau class as ever. Derry Lake, I thought was actually probably shown one of his most captain-like performances. I've seen him playing for Wales. I've seen it for the Ospreys plenty and when he was in the under-20s. But this was one where I just thought, yeah, that's great. Actually, I know Dan's going to pick up some points on his game, but I thought Alex Mann was really good in the defense side of things. I thought his chop tackling was key to getting a few turnovers over on Japan. Yes, his carrying game needs work, but I thought that was really good. That's kind of where I'm putting. That's kind of my limit. I think after that, then it's all just sort of negatives and caveats. There were a couple of scrums that weren't shit at the start. That was quite nice.
That's your positive. Go on. I'm going to throw Josh McLeod in there because for
Yeah,
that first 60 minutes, he was everywhere. His stats say he
he
had
shouldn't have
one
come off.
turnover. No, well, I think he
I
was
don't
out on
think.
his
I
feet.
think he could have done another 20. I personally would
Mm,
have kept him on, taken Man off because I think Man looked gassed.
mm. But he, yeah, his defense was superb, and I thought he had more than one turnover, but one turnover it was. But as a team, we generated 7 turnovers, and a lot of that was because we were just first to the breakdown every time, and I thought McLeod led that really really well. Um,
And Sam Costello as well, another one who's some absolutely fantastic tackling from 10. Having watched Ireland and Leinster play, remember, it's nice seeing a 10 who actually stands up for a tackle. And to be honest, God,
yeah, well, yeah, I think he had 9 tackles, which is when you
I think
look at
says a bit more where Japan was attacking when we again go into the
yeah
stats a bit more, which I know Dan wants to pick on.
Costello was actually our second highest tackler with 12.
Which
yeah
is becoming quite a trend in rugby at the moment, is the 10 is making a lot more tackles. So having a
mm.
defensively solid 10. Like if Dan Bigg was coming through this era now, he would be the dog bollocks. Oh,
Well, if everyone's attacking the 10 right now, Ireland must be quaking because that's the one bit that doesn't work for them. But yeah, I think for me, there were positives there. Up to 60 minutes, we were all right. We weren't playing amazing rugby, but we were in the lead and we looked comfortable-ish. And then the last 20 minutes, it went to shit. So Dan, Nick, if you've got any positives you can pull out of that performance,
Nothing more.
No.
Dan's going to give us an
I,
impression of somebody to.
oh, mate. Mate. Get the fucking tea on there, mate. I just, like you said, like we said on the pod last time out, kicking game was going to be key. Territory was going to be key. Um, playing in the right areas, not overexerting ourselves. Um, maintain our energy level, staying cool, being disciplined, all of these sorts of things. I'm looking at the territory count. We're at 51% territory now. I just got up on the other screen here, but we only had 14% territory in their 22. 14%. We 57% was played between the two 22-meter lines. For me, we're playing in the wrong areas. If we're gonna take on a kicking game, and I noticed in the first half particularly, we were boxing to compete, and I thought we did okay there. Then I thought we kind of played a little bit aimlessly in between the two, in sort of like almost between the two 15s a little bit, or especially both
narrower than
sides.
that, to be honest. It was about
Narrower
20
now
meters
within
across,
a
I think.
20-meter box, yeah, both sides of the ruck, which for me was like almost like an anti-jockey team. I was expecting to see runners at the back. What's the point in playing Ben Thomas in reality if we're going to play 20 meters either side of the ruck? But then when we didn't go anywhere, why were we not then looking to pin them back into their 22, kick again? In the first half, they dropped the ball in no end of times from box kicks, and their backfield coverage wasn't great. And I don't think we exploited that at all. So I thought the decision making thereafter, after 5 or 6 phases, when we did get the ball back, Harley mentioned Josh Adams. I thought he did okay there. Was really poor. Um, you look at the makeup of our carry stats as a team, and Faletau and Lake were our top carriers. They carried the ball, and Ratty's up there on 10 carries. Um, Lake 10 carries, Faletau 14 carries. But Lake and Faletau were the top people for post contact meters for 58 meters between them. After that, everybody else shut down. Okay, so all the other forwards between them in the Wales pack, including those that come off the bench, carried for 20 meters. For me, you're playing for Wales, and bear in mind we played 20 meters either side of the ruck. So it's not as if they had a lot of running about to do, And even if they were doing a lot of running around, or we were playing 5 meter to 5 meter, we play 1-3-3-1. So they don't have a lot of running around to do there because they stay in shape throughout. As Azarati, one carry in 50 minutes, not acceptable. He made one tackle as well. That's not acceptable. Now, if he'd have dominated the scrums, I'd be like, oh, okay, fair enough. But I can't see how that work rate's acceptable. Mann was our top tackler, made 20 tackles, I think. But in the entire game, he carried the ball 4 times. That's our number 6, carrying the ball 4 times. I know we're swinging between defence and attack here, but McLeod, in our number 7, mind, and I'm just throwing this out there, our number 7, 3 tackles. And we made one dominant tackle all game. One dominant tackle. Now, I'm all for, and there's no doubt about it, the union, the regions, everything that's wrong with Welsh rugby. There's a lot wrong with it. But when you pull the red jersey on and you get given an opportunity to perform and represent your country, that everybody in Wales, that I give my right arm to have a Welsh cap, a senior Welsh cap. I ain't got one. When you go out there, I think you've got to empty the tank and you've got to do better. Now, everyone, all the pundits go, you can see the boys are putting in effort. They're putting in effort. Yeah, I'd have come off. So I was sweating watching the game. It was that hot, right? But you've got to do better. You've got to do better. For me, as your number 7, 3 tackles. That's
Sure, yeah, I
In
checked that.
in fairness, I'm gonna
I-
I'm gonna
I'm
pick up
look
on
I'm
that one
look
just because
I'm looking at it
if you
now.
look at where he is in the defensive shape, he's floating behind for going in for the turnovers. He's not actually being targeted for that. That's really
Okay,
the
so we
problem
had
was
one
it we weren't as
one
successfully getting
turnover.
opposed.
There you
Yeah, and
go.
I can remember him
Tommy
having more
Raphael
than
had the
that.
same amount of turnovers in that time. For me, those one dominant tackle, boys. Man made
Yeah.
and that was so Alex Mann made 20 tackles. One of them was dominant. If you were Japan now and you were playing against the same team next week, you shut down Lake and you shut down Faletau. No one else is going to carry for any meters. We can't win a gain line. We have Thomas at 12. It's not his fault, but he's not going to run he's not winning many gain lines for you. And we're playing Japan, a team, again, when we spoke about, we're saying, we got to physically dominate them. Their front row went for 80 minutes. He didn't swap the front row. And we
He
got
didn't
we, we
need to.
got we got and
And
we got battered in the scrum and we swapped all of ours. I'm struggling based on those stats to find some positives. I really, really am. And there are occasions where as a group of players you got to stick your hand up and you gotta go, that wasn't good enough. And for me, it wasn't good enough. Those stats, as soon as I started looking into the stats, I was like, how can Azarati in 50 minutes worth of work, international rugby, carry once for no meters, make one tackle, and be dominated in the scrum? Like, baffles me. I'm open to put it this way, right? If the boys come in on a Tuesday and you got stats like that playing in my defence, I'd be asking questions.
so let's
It's more mad than
bring.
that though, because Ben Thomas had 7 carries but only 5 passes.
Yeah, we
And
kicked
he
a
was
lot, didn't we?
he didn't kick that many times either. He was about 4th on kicking.
Yeah,
Like
but
that's the thing I find really bizarre is you basically had Ben Thomas playing more like you'd expect Johnny Williams to play role. I don't know if that was just because the passing options kept getting shut down because it was taking so long to get the ball out. Because I think that was one of the biggest problems as well is by the time our forwards are getting the ball from the ruck, the defense is up and on them. They don't. There's no way to generate momentum. And the only way they could gain meters really was basically to stand even further back, but then you're not making
yeah.
meters past the game line. It's I
I
think
will I
everywhere
will
everything boils down to the ball was too slow, and you're right. The players weren't fighting that extra yard you expect them to. I don't know if that's just because some of these players had hit their limit, or if they were tired from the heat, or if it's
you
just
know
simple as
I
they've
caveat the sorry,
they've
Hardy.
lost.
I'm happy to caveat the Azarati thing in that, from a defensive point of view, we probably had much more ball in the first half than we did the second half. Um, so, but then he'd have an opportunity to carry. Why can't we be multi-threat? I don't understand that. If you're
This is
Japan, you're getting off. You're in defence now, and if it's Faletau or Lake having the ball, you're thinking, right, I got to get off and shut him down. If it's everybody else, you're going, well, all right, let him come at us because
I
they're not going to win the game line anyway.
mean, I can't have spent all this time on the pod moaning about Adam Beard being a really good lineup forward, classy distributor, but not making any meters. And if Pack doesn't make meters, I'm not going to say the same about Cardiff players. And you're right, Azrael wasn't making any meters. Despite the fact he's a very good carrier for Cardiff. That's the thing. He's used as a carrier and distributor for Cardiff. So I don't know why he isn't in this shape. James Ratty, you point out he was he was the third top carrier with 10, but he only made 3 meters. That's when he made meters past game line. He made 3 meters. It, is this and I don't, you're a coach, Dan, so you'd be able to. Is it a structure thing? Are they just not showing enough deception to get people at weak
Well,
shoulders? Is it just too slow and the defense is on them, or is
well,
it, or is it as simple as they're just not fighting that extra yard?
for me, it's got to be a mix of both of them. There's no doubt the game plan was to go and kick to chase and kick to compete, and we did that. But then, like when we got the ball back, it was almost, well, what do we do with it now? And I couldn't understand. I was expecting to see, for us to kick to compete and for us to look to win the ball sort of between their 22 and our 10-meter line, and then to go, right, let's play. We've won the ball back. We got 15 players onside. They got 10 or 12 players offside. Let's go, let's play. Let's have shape. Let's get into 1-3-3-1. Let's have Ben Thomas distributing the ball, pulling the ball back to the likes of Josh Adams, Blair Murray at the back. Let's have big, strong forward carries in midfield running at their lightweight backs. But I don't know. I didn't see any of that. I don't know whether you boys did. I just come off. I was really, really disappointed with it. Really, really disappointed.
The bit for me, right, is why do you kick? Why would you kick? You give the ball back to them. So why are you kicking? There's got to be a purpose behind your kicking. So you're either kicking into touch and you're going to compete on their line out, or you're hoping to push their back three further back in the field. Yeah, you're kicking long to keep their wingers and their fullback deep in the field. So when you attack, you can fanny about with your wingers and fullbacks somewhere where their wingers and fullbacks aren't. Yeah, so you're putting them out of position. We did none of that. We did a little bit of kick to compete, so we were box kicking short. But then, like you said, Dan, we'd win the ball back, and then we'd go, what do we do now? Let's box kick again, and then we'd lose the ball, and we've lost that bit where we go. There's an opportunity to not play within a format. Do you know what I mean? That we're doing something in order to create a broken game, and a broken game is where we've always played well. We have a natural ability to play a broken up game and just run into space, run at players, throw a ball around. That's where we feel comfortable. That's where we feel at home. And we had opportunities to do that, and we went, no, let's pull a caterpillar in, or let's slow it down, and let's have a couple of. It just we lost. I don't know if it's a confidence thing. I don't know if it's a coach and a tactic thing. I don't know if it's the conditions. I think to me, conditions
you take the caterpillar rug, right? How many times did Hardy nearly get charged down or get charged down, or his kick was too just vertical because the caterpillar was too short and he's under pressure? I heard no end of times him being spoken to by the referee not to put his hands in the ruck to drag the ball back. He's got to use his feet, otherwise, as soon as he's got his hand on the ball, it's play on. He didn't have a good game for me, and then we didn't use the 9 that was on the bench.
I think it was all right first half. The second half, it was crazy. Got a 9 on the bench. Everybody could see that Hardy was getting worse as the game went on, and you don't bring your 9 on. I just do not understand that at all.
No,
In
no,
that first half, I don't think
me.
Hardy was playing particularly well. He was doing well enough because Japan were making so many mistakes. We were getting the scrum back, and had parity in the scrum. Which, but there's one
I
where
didn't
he
say he
does
was
a
playing
really nice
well.
flip. He
I
does a
think
really nice flip
I just
in the
said he
ruck,
was
but
playing
it's
all
because
right.
he's taken so long. He's been counter-rucked, and he's had to go in when he could
Yeah.
have gotten in there. And you look at it, and the ball's there. It's not like it's trapped under feet. And like,
I
I know
think
he's trying to use the time to try and get that 4 or 5 seconds to again just taking the wind out of sails because Japan want to play fast, fast, fast. So you're slowing it down. But it was a very it wasn't like Kieran Hardy was playing for the Ospreys. It just
No,
seemed
but if he was playing that badly, why wasn't a substitution made?
I don't know.
I don't
Baffle
know.
me. I
This
don't
is one
know.
of the this is one of the things I've always said with Jockey. He's only just had his second season as a head coach. But one thing I think he really lacked one particular skill he lacks is use of the bench. I feel like he doesn't time substitute.
I'm
Doesn't
sorry,
use
Harley.
substitution. But doesn't time
I'm
it.
sorry, Harley.
Yes.
If we can see that from the side, you don't need to be 5 years into your coaching career to do that. It's bloody painfully obvious. He's got a box full of coaches. He's got analysts there. You know, it was painfully obvious that a nine need to be substituted.
I agree.
So unless Rodri's got some injury, they're not on it. But then why is he on top?
Well,
Yeah,
why wasn't Rubin? Players
Yeah,
in the
this
past
yeah,
have gone down in the warm up, and you put
yeah.
somebody
Just
in.
put.
yeah. No, this is what I said. I don't get what's gone on with that. I
Mm.
there's no defend. I can't defend. I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just saying this is something that seems to be in a problem with him, and I don't. It looked like he'd seemed to get the hang of it at Cardiff, and then it's gone wrong. But it's things like he's wait. The Wainwright for Faletau substitution. The time for that was probably about 5 minutes before it did. It didn't help that they then called the water break because there was a player injured. But you want a player coming on with momentum, with impact, and then we wait. It wasn't until a stoppage, so he basically has keyed himself up to get on the pitch, and then he stops again.
I
What I
think.
will say,
Oh, go on. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say about the stoppages. I thought it was a very, very stop-start game, which I think played into Japan's hands more than ours. I still think we were blowing in those last 20, and it was. I think that first 40 minutes took
1 hour.
close on 60 minutes to complete. And there were breaks, and then there were injuries, and then there was water breaks, and then it never really felt like a flowing game. And that's where we play good rugby. You could see the times where we like the try, Tom Rogers' try came from a little bit of broken play, and then three running at three, bang, 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 all of a sudden in at the corner. We shouldn't have scored that try. They should have defended that quite comfortably, but we did something a little bit different, and we went right. Okay, let's go score in the corner. Lovely jubbly.
It was
So
quite nice seeing us score a try while step a man, which
yeah,
is something
but
we haven't always been able to do.
We let them kind of control the pace of that game. We knew what we could do. We knew how we could break that game down. We knew where we needed to put the ball in order to beat Japan, and we let them control it. We let them control the pace. And then when they wanted to up that pace in that last 20 minutes, we had nothing. We couldn't stop it. All of our best defensive players were either shot or off the pitch. And they just went, thank you very much. Let's play a bit of sevens, and let's throw the ball around. So for me, I don't know whether that sits as coaching, whether that sits within the analysts. We don't talk about analysts very often, where we can see something and then we go, maybe this needs to change, or if maybe Jockey is too loyal to some players. And this is always the problem when you promote a Welsh coach from within to come to that Welsh side, is are they over loyal to the players that they've got? Do they keep players there too long? The Alan Wynne Jones, best will in the world, stayed a season too long at international level. Foxy, probably 3 or 4 games too long at international level as well. And it's hard having to say to someone as a coach, okay, that's it. We need to move on, or we need to start developing players. You're only getting a half. Someone's coming on at half time, or you're having the second half. So and so maybe we are just over familiar with players and we haven't got that ruthless edge to go, this is what's going to happen. Eddie Jones couldn't give a shit. Eddie Jones does not give a flying fuck about how he makes those Japanese players feel. He just, right, you're a front row, you're on for 80 minutes, well done. You three that wanted to get on, tough shit. Yeah, ruthless. I'm not saying he's a good coach. I'm just saying he's ruthless, and maybe we're a bit not over friendly, but over comfortable with some of the players that we've got there, if that makes sense.
I thought we lacked the second half because what was the score at half time? 19...
19-7.
19-7 at half time. Now, I thought we lacked real leadership in that second half as well. Where, especially when they scored the next try to go 19-14, that's then when you double down on that kicking effort and you go, right, now we do need to play deep. We need to make them attack from, within their 22. Yeah, all right, kick to compete in the first half, fine. We've gone 19-7 up. We won that battle. It worked perfectly. Then the second half, it just all went to shit. We start conceding penalties. The scrum penalties.
Line out as well, Dan. Line out went.
Line out wasn't comfortable even from the very first one. I mean, I still think man was taken in the air a couple of times, but we'll get on.
For me, again, there's a leadership thing there, and you go, right, we kept trying to do the same thing in the line out. How many times do we shorten the line out? How many times do we go, and I know it's real old school and this is international rugby, but for me, it stood out a mile that I thought the trajectory of most of the throws from the hookers, especially Dewi Lake, we were taking a lot of the ball at the tail, middle to the tail, not at the top of the jump. So therefore, the trajectory is low. And if you watch it back, Japan went, right, we're just going to stack one man at the front every time. So they stuck one up at the front, then they tried to mirror. So as a hooker now, you've got to be two men. You're not just trying to mirror and get up next to the jumper now. Now you've got to and it all fell apart. It all fell apart. We couldn't win any ball, and Japan didn't have to do a lot then for territory.
No, you're right.
So we didn't make them work. We didn't kick those corners then and go, right, come on, play out, and let them make errors and win that kicking battle. They marched their way up the field through errors and penalties, and it fell apart. There was a distinct lack of leadership on there. And the other point being then going back to when you look at the stats, if you can't win collisions at any level of rugby, you're not going to win a rugby match. If you cannot win collisions, both sides of the ball in attack or defence, you ain't going to get gain line and you're just going to get rolled over. And ultimately, the stats speak for themselves, whereby, only 2 out of, what split do we have on the bench? A 6-2 split?
6-2, yeah.
There you go. So 2 out of 12 forwards were able to get any sort of meaningful gain line. The rest of them couldn't do it, and no one could do it in defence.
This is basic stuff, Dan. This is stuff that you're taught in bloody school. If you're a forward, you take the ball flat out and you take the ball flat off the 9 and you hit someone. You go there. If you're going to make ground, that's how you do it. If you're going to run outside of that first contact, then you're running into space. Yeah, but you've got a purpose. If you're taking that first ball to commit men, you're going headlong and you're looking at how can I hit 3 skittles at the same time and take them 5 yards up. We're passing the ball to boys standing still 5 meters behind the line. And they're standing there and then they're getting the ball and they're going, oh, and I'm going to scrunch and then I'm going to go down and protect it. And then, what do we do now? Then we kick it. This is international level rugby. They're playing stuff that I wouldn't accept from my youth team, You don't accept taking the ball, standing still, unless you're Japan in those last 2 minutes where you're running that clock down and you go, do you know what? Take, stand still, down, protect, take, stand still, down, protect. They're not getting that ball. Clock's gone red, gone. That's the only time you do it. We were doing this in the first half. In an international game.
Yeah, so then it boils down to when you go, look, we lack a lot of physicality, right? When I was looking at stats earlier on, I looked at the last time Wales played Japan at home. I think it was 2016. So it's a while ago now, but on the stadium, our 2 centres carried the ball 30 odd times between them, Roberts and Foxy. That's the level of physicality we had in our midfield then that we don't have now. Yeah. You look at the pack back then, Warburton, I think it was like 10 carries, Faletau well into double figures, Lids in at 10 carries. Alan Wynne-Jones, Jake Ball in there, Ken Owens. You know, all of these boys, like, there's multi-threat around the pack for ball carrying, all throughout the back line, multi-threat for ball carrying. You throw North in, but and I hear a lot of pundits going as well, like online, going, well, oh, you know, we don't have loads of big men in this country. And I don't necessarily buy into the fact that you've got to be massive to be physical. Ardy Surveyor is arguably the most physical player on the rugby planet. He's not even 100 kilos.
Isn't Colby, for example, is an extreme.
Well,
You'll make yards out wide. You'll make them narrow if he needs to.
you know, but and I'm talking, you know, forward. It's a mentality thing. You look at Henry Pollock, right? English 7. I know, you know, I know you're going to say, but he's a young lad. How many times he makes plenty of gain line? It's a mentality thing. You know, I reshared on my Twitter feed a while ago that one score he made for the one try he scored for Northampton, where he sort of beats 5 or 6 who they play, Montpellier, whoever it was at home in the Champions Cup. That's a mentality thing. He's not 100 kilos. It's a mentality thing. Jack Morgan, now out there banging people in the Queensland Reg jerseys. Was he 100 kilos? It's a mentality thing. You don't have to be massive. You know, physicality is a mentality, not just a physical attribute. Don't get me wrong, it helps if you're 6'8", 6'9", like Ebenet's a bit, and want to go around taking people's noggins off. That does help, but it's a mentality thing to go with it, and I don't think we got enough of them at the moment. It's just, but I don't know whether you boys think this, but I do think that come the autumn when they come over, and we do have, you know, Wainwright, Jack Morgan, Faletau, Jake Ball goes back in for me. Straight away, he's a physical specimen. You got the likes of Moriarty back in the country now, irrespective of the fact he's getting older. Likes the physical element of the game. He will make tackles. He will whack people. He will get over the gain line. You know, so you know there are some people to come back in. Beard will run our line out for us. I know he's not the most physical rugby player in the world, but you know there are some. I don't think we lose this fixture back at home if we take that physicality up a notch. But we got to make changes for Saturday.
Well, just add one thing before we move on
go on.
next Saturday, because it's something that just fucking rankles me with it at the moment. It's the obsession with going for the corner, regardless of whether your line out works or not. Because the amount of penalties we kicked to the corner, and somewhere we didn't even make the corner because it went parallel, but I'm not going to go that. When they were easy points, and we could have just like, if we're playing this slow it down game of conserving energy, why are we not taking the 3? Because each time you just tick that scoreboard over, it raises. Trust me, I play for a really crap seconds team. I know what it's like to have points knocking on you over and over and over again, and you stop doing any shit to try and just score. And that desperation goes up. Why are we not? Japan saw it. They went, right, we're 7 points behind, but we're going to kick. Oh no, we're going to kick so we get within 2 points. There were 5 points and they kicked within 2 points. And it just leak it out.
I agree.
It's just basic game management.
Yeah, I agree, especially in those conditions. But Japan kicked 4 from 4. Wales kicked 1 from 3.
No.
You know, we and that wouldn't have brought us level. Sorry.
Well, we only had 2. I mean, I suppose you include the missed drop goal.
But we scored. The one try was a penalty try, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But But again, I don't think Costello's averages are not massive. I don't think is the point I'm getting at. And we haven't got Dan Bigger in there. We haven't got a Lee Halfpenny in there anymore. These kickers that are in the high 90s. So that alters things a little bit as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, but we forget, Costello's still relatively young, and when Bigger was Costello's age, he wasn't even in the Welsh team. Yeah. When Bigger came into the Welsh team, he wasn't the finished kicker. Neither was Halfpenny. Halfpenny came in on the wing. Halfpenny wasn't even kicking when he came into the Welsh team. So it's a lot of pressure on Costello. The bit that I am surprised about is he's played a whole season where the Scarlets' tactic has been the first 4 or 5 kickable penalties, you take them. You know, even if you miss them, you send a message to the opposition that goes, you know what, every time you come over the ball in your half, we're going to try and take some points out of you. And it stops their back row. It makes them think twice before kind of going a little bit nuts in your ruck. So he's been doing that all season. And then he gets to a game where that's probably the right tactic to do, to just constantly, like you say, chip away at that mentality and go, we're not here to play fancy rugby, boys. We're here to beat you. And as lovely as rugby you want to play, we're here to win. And we're going to put 15 points over the sticks, and then we'll start messing around with the ball then. He's been doing that
That's
all
also
season.
partially Lake's decision, and the coaches can defend the key on. I mean, that's what they do before
yeah,
they.
but that's what I mean. Why? But why wasn't that happening? You know, why weren't we turning around and saying, you know, let's do this second half? Okay, maybe let's start going for the corner when we're 20 odd points up. But we never got to that point where we were dominating. We were never that in control. Like I said, we were losing our own lineouts. We were gifting them stuff on our lineouts that were just ridiculous. So for me, there isn't one bit of that game on Saturday to go, if we'd have sorted that, we'd have been better. There's a whole load of a jigsaw on Saturday that needed to be rectified. So let's talk about rectifying it. Let's talk about what do we change for this weekend. So let's start in the second row, because that's the obvious place with Carter. I'll be honest, I was still asleep for the first 3 minutes. And he was off by the time so I haven't actually gone back and watched that bit yet. So he's obviously, am I right in thinking he's out?
He's out.
Jockey said he's not going to play. He's already said he's out because it was a straight out knockout, which
he was sparked,
really innocuous, but you know, it's going to happen every now and again. It was head on hip when he was fully bent going for tackle.
Okay.
So he's going to be out. So you're looking at either starting Ratty and Teddy, or bringing in someone like Freddie Thomas. I suppose with Freddie Thomas, you've got the dynamism as well, and you've got a more dynamic. You know, I wouldn't say he's an out and out game line carrier at the middle, but he is very good in wide channels. He is, you know, very similar to the likes of Pumphrey. He's another player you could consider in that sort of hybrid 6.
Nick, who would you bring in at second row?
I don't watch a lot of English rugby, so I don't know an awful lot about Freddie Thomas. But you know, he probably offers a little bit of go forward with the ball. So Ratty did all right. He didn't do badly. He had 10 carries. It's Hobson's choice, really, isn't it?
Freddie Thomas for me.
Well,
I think Freddie Thomas. I think he's going to offer more in terms of abrasiveness, carrying the ball. You know, Ratty played effectively 80 minutes on the weekend, 10 carries for 3 meters. He's had his go. I know there's more to a game than just, you know, carries, and he would have hit rucks and pushed in scrums and, you know, mauled lineouts and so on and so forth. I get all that, but I just think we need to bring, you know, and he's playing it, you know, he's playing pretty much every week for Gloucester. And he's playing in a league where there's lots of big men. You know, there's a lot of forward dominant teams in our league, and Gloucester have also got the ability to throw the ball around. So, I'd give him a go. What have we got to lose?
So front row then, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that we stick with Lake to start with. Did Belcher offer anything off the bench, or do you bring
I don't think
Dion
he
to
even
the
had
bench?
enough time, to be fair. Like, he came on quite late compared to when the props came on. But I think if you want someone coming off the bench for impact, I think you would go with tried and tested, let it be. I just think I do think he would have added something. I mean, Lake's good. Not that now. This is going to sound controversial, what Lou said. Not because I think he's necessarily did anything wrong, but I think he'll do more off the bench than Gareth Thomas is. So I'd swap Lou's heads around. I'd start Gareth Thomas with Lake and probably Archie Griffin, because I agree that as much as I love Azarati, other than just a cheap sorts of dead air with Commons talking about his undershirt. Didn't really do anything. Didn't really hold up the
Azarati's played
scrum. I
himself
know
out for
I know
me.
it's not just the tight head problem, but it is a problem he has quite often. Is if his ref doesn't like him, that's it. And he doesn't seem to be able to work out how to get around with that. He also looked he looked tired after the
He looked
first few
tired.
minutes as well.
So
I'd bring Archie Griffin to start, even though he's played less minutes. And I was down to put it on the group chat. I said, why not give Coleman a crack? And you know what? Maybe off the bench. I've
but
lost
if
it
you
now, so
when go back to Dan's point earlier, if you're talking to Coleman and you're prepping him for the game and you're going, do you know what, you're gonna get 30 minutes on Saturday to make your mark. You've got 30 minutes to go mental and do something. You got 30 minutes as maybe your one and only Welsh shirt. You've got 30 minutes to do something to tell me that when we go back home and I've got all my other players to choose from, you're still going to be my man. Yeah, that might be what we need. That might just that. Come on, let's somebody to go around and just wind everybody up, particularly that front row, and go. You know, you're playing for shirts here, boys. You're playing for reputations. You're playing for the Jesus. You're playing to not lose 19 games on the bounce, and this is down to you. This is up to you to do this now, and somebody in that team somewhere has got to be able to put some fire into the belly of that front row because that's what you need. You don't need a cool-headed, calm, nice, polite gentleman pouring you cups of tea and stirring it with a silver spoon in the front row. You need an animal that's going to get in people's faces, rough them up, make their life difficult, and hit them as hard as you possibly can. You don't need pretty boys in the front row. You need angry, mad bastards that are going to put them off their game.
basically you need
Essentially,
that.
yeah. But we've got players that can do that.
For
I'm
me,
sure we do.
Azarati's played himself out of the match day squad.
Yeah,
Um, Based on, and even if he goes, look, I just couldn't cope with the conditions. It was too much for me. That's fine. Whatever it was, he didn't have a good look. Like you said, no one can be perfect every week, but I just thought he didn't have a good game at all. In my opinion, it's only my opinion, but for me, he's played himself out of this match day squad.
I
So
think he
you'd
struggled whenever
you
he's been in the Wales shirt. So
you'd start with Griffin. I think you'd start with Griffin. And in a way, was not is a sad state of affairs, but we got Bass third choice tight head. Gonna our bet is he our best option at tight head,
um,
Green?
in
But
context, third choice tight head when the other two are Thomas Latoya and Welsh Stewart. It sounds good, but then he's not getting any games, which has been my biggest issue.
yeah, but we've and I agree, those are two brilliant, brilliant tight head props. But
Yeah,
we've had tight head props like that in the past. This is what we've bred British Lions. But
Consistently. Yeah.
consistently multiples of
Yeah.
where are they gone? But as Azarati for me, yeah, gone. I go with Lake, and I'm happy to interchange. I don't think Smith was that effective on the weekend. Um, but again, I go with one of those two. And for me, Belcher come on in the 67th minute. We were under the pump. The one thing that did go for him, again, now he's a club captain, right? He's a regional captain down at Cardiff. He's used to throwing the ball in the line out, the leadership element when it was going, when the shit hit the fan in the line out, we couldn't win a ball. It needed someone with a big enough personality to go, boys, let me just drill one to the front low and hard on the badge. Let's just win the ball, catch it and drive it, box to compete, whatever it is we're going to do. Let's shorten the line out. Take that option away from them. We beat them. We create more space between the two 5 meter lines. We beat them on speed or movement. Give me a chance, but we didn't do that. So I think, based on the fact there's arrows, and it's not just his fault, but the line out went awry. I think we go with Elliot D because he's better. He's more consistent there. Plus, he's a 50 cap Welsh international, and ultimately we got to win the game.
Yeah. So back row then. I mean, this for me is some parts of it are easy. I think Faletau stays. I
Yeah,
think
best player
That
on the
stays.
park.
yeah, I think McLeod
Stays, and I
starts.
personally bring
Oh.
Wainwright in
So
with more experience because I feel like someone like Plumtree would be better off the bench. Again, it's that.
He's been more. I this is where I'd be tempted to put Plumtree into second row and just have him going mental because even if it's a half a game, Plumtree going mental for half a game is a joy to watch. And he is a physical player. If we want to bring physicality, you want players like Plumtree on that pitch and wreaking havoc. He's a similar mentality to Moriarty. Moriarty's a bit shorter and a bit more arrowed, where Plumtree's just a bit more kind of aggressive around the park.
I think
So,
Plumty offers whatever he plays. He offers a fairly solid line-out option because he's quite light, isn't he? He's quite big as well. He's 6'5". I personally would play him at 6, just to get him up in the air and winning the line-out because it gives
but
us.
then Wainwright's a line-out option as well.
I think Plumty's better though in the
Mm,
line-out. In the line-out.
I'd start Tommy Rathel at 7.
really,
Yeah.
but he
I've
didn't.
yet to be impressed by him at international level. I don't
Well,
think he offers what he can at Leicester because we haven't got the pack to support him. I think unless you've got, I mean, you're not gonna have any dominant tackles if you want Raffle that is better because you want people knocking him down. You almost want players to come over the game line so he can get over. They're talking about like the big dominant hits actually because really hard to turn the ball over because you end up on top.
It's about back row balance now, isn't it? So if you've got Faletau and Wainwright who are able to whack people, they're physical. And again, I hate to just go back to stats, but Ref will come on when he come on and made 7 tackles.
When he came on, yeah,
and had a turnover.
but when he came on, that's when they cut loose. That's the problem. When we made the changes, when Raffle came on, he was part of the bit that all fell to shit, and that's the bit for me that whatever was happening before that, we were shutting them down. They weren't touching the outside centre. That ball was not getting to the outside centre because we were shutting it down, and whatever we were doing up till that point was working, and then whatever changed when Raffle came on
Can win a lineup.
we didn't win a lineup, but whatever changed,
the
they started running the ball through the backs, which they hadn't done through all through that game. So, I'm not saying it's one person. I'm not saying Rafael was the cause of that, but whatever changed when he came on, they just went right. Okay, let's ping the ball to the wing, and no, that's where we're scoring. So for me, yeah, I'm not even sure I'd have him on the bench.
The argument, I suppose, the counter argument there then is you have Rafael starting, let him do what he does, and then you bring McLeod on in the last 30 because McLeod's got that leadership and defence to keep Wales to hopefully keep the line together.
Yeah, but he didn't defend on the weekend. My point.
He was shutting it down. When you go back and look at the replays, McLeod was shutting that game down. They did not move it past inside centre, and he was on it. From where I was looking at it, Ben Thomas was sitting deep, and Johnny Williams was pushing up and sucking them into that inside centre role, and they were biting that. They were going, "Thank you very much." They were coming into there, wrapped them up. As a team, we had 7 turnovers from that tactic. I think we had 2 turnovers in the last 20 minutes, and one of them was Rafael. But so for me, whatever changed then needs to not change again. We need to do that for the full 80 because it was working. They were getting sucked into a channel where we were turning the ball over. We'd win a penalty, we'd kick it back to the line, and then they'd win the line out and then run it back to our inside centre. So
in that last bit where we lacked our leadership, we didn't manage the game properly. We turned the ball over at scrum. We turned the ball over at line out. They played well in transition. And ultimately it was a penalty that they got a winning try from because they kicked it into the corner and mauled us over, which was there was a penalty that was missed. There was a penalty missed in their mind by the referee because they double skinned that maul.
Exactly what we got penalised for on 44 when Mickey
Yeah,
Smith did the
where we
same.
had the
I think
and
try.
that
Yeah.
and that weren't looked at. They double skinned that so we couldn't get the ball carrier. That's not sour grapes. It's just the way it is.
I'll be honest, that ref did not
Mm.
get
No,
that.
I
I don't think it affects the result. I don't.
and I think, as much as I thought Man was industrious, and look, if they went with McLeod or Raffle on the weekend, I think you've got to go with one of them on the field, one of them on the bench, right? I don't know which way you're going to go, but for me, if Man doesn't start, it's pointless bringing him off the bench. So therefore, he drops out the match day squad.
Yeah,
Okay.
sense.
Okay. Let's look at 9 and 10 then, because if you were unfortunate enough to look at any part of Welsh social media this week, then 9 and 10 have already been hung, drunk, quartered, decapitated, and put on a bridge for everyone to spit at as they walk past. So, do you keep the 9 and 10? Do you change 9? Do you change 10? Where do you go with it? Nick, you get to start this one again.
Well,
9
as
and
an
10.
Osprey fan, I think it should be Rodri Williams and Sam Costello, and so I would to come home safely.
So and they're not allowed to train all week, and they can start pre-season a week early. Yeah, fair play. But genuinely, would you not want to see Ruben Morgan Williams on the pitch?
Yeah, as I say, Hardy was fine for 45, 50 minutes. Wasn't brilliant, but he was fine. He was playing to his plan, and most of the kicking was fine. But it was obvious he should come off. Whoever's a scrum half, it's the hardest position. You probably put in the most mileage in or in a game, and yeah, and that heat, searing heat and humidity. It wasn't a game to keep a scrum half on, however well they were playing for 80 minutes. So yeah, what Ruben's a bit quicker, isn't he? He'll snipe a bit more. But obviously he's very inexperienced at this level, not inexperienced. Roger Williams is a steady player. I really don't know, and I've got no really strong opinion about it. If I'm honest with you, I'd like to see Ruben get a cap, obviously.
Okay. Dan, 9 and 10.
They keep Costello in there. Personally, I think that although I would like to see Dan, I think Dan Jones a good player. Dan Edwards, sorry.
Dinky's in somewhere in Ealing now
Ealing,
going,
Ealing.
what the hell?
Call him up.
Yeah.
For me, Hardy, as much as Nick said he was okay in the first half, I'd agree, but I think he was like a 5.5 or 6 out of 10 in the first
Yeah.
half even.
Yeah.
He's slow. The rucks weren't long enough. Some of the kicks were good, some of them weren't. He was too inconsistent. And then the second half, it fell off a cliff for him. Love him. So I'd go with the other two in any particular. For me, do you start with Rod? You'd probably, unfortunately for Rodri, where he's more experienced, you'd probably go, look, he's got to come off the bench to sort of see the game out. But I thought that was going to happen on Saturday. On 50 minutes where Kieran Hardy's clearly gone. You change him, and Nick makes a good point. He's covering all that ground. So I would still say that if it's sort of 19-14 and you got 20 minutes to go, who do you want coming off the bench? Do you want Rodri Williams coming off the bench or Ruben Morgan Williams coming off the bench? Probably Rodri, just with that experience. So just based on that, Ruben Morgan Williams to start. I give Costello another. Costello, he's getting a lot of stick online, isn't he? But let's not forget, mind, behind a pack that wasn't dominant. We lost no end of scrum. No end of struggle. We lost pretty much every line out in the second period. He didn't have any front foot ball in the second half. It's tough, isn't it? It's
he
tough.
still made 60 odd, 70 odd meters with a ball.
Yeah, he's a top meter maker for Wales. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
to me, says there's a problem. Personally, I think if your 10's doing that, that's something's gone wrong.
Well, you want the 10 to run. You want the 10 to control the game. You want the 10 to run at their defenders.
You want
the
the
10
10 to
commit
control the
them in.
game, but the whole point of having your wingers and the whole point of having a battering ram like Johnny Williams is to have him making carries and making meters, which
Yeah,
he
well,
didn't do because the ball
I think,
basically
see,
couldn't
look,
get past 12.
yeah, I think that he's ended up carrying those meters. It looks okay in stats, but I think he's carried them because we've run out of ideas. We've played in that 20-meter box. We haven't gone 5 meter to 5 meter. We haven't gone into 1-3-3-1 properly. We're not making gain lines. So he's having to do that sort of thing. Which then you go, well, he's the quarterback out there, mind. He's the one controlling things. So then you go, well, we give Dan Edwards a go. You pair him up with the Osprey boy, so you've got connections there. And for me, I don't know. It's a flip of a coin.
I agree.
I think
one thing you can argue with Dan Edwards is he probably hasn't had the stink of these 18 losses. When he has played for the Ospreys, one thing he has been able to do is drag games by the scruff of the neck, even when it's not doing well.
And you needed someone to control it on Saturday. You needed someone to control it on Saturday.
He's probably a bit better kicker than Sam Costello. A couple of those cross kicks were the right things from Costello, but he couldn't execute them. They weren't the most accurate. And if you want to kick for corners, probably Dan Edwards is a little bit better than Costello than that.
I think it's if you compare like both of them on their best game, then they're both fine. And that for me is the thing. They're two quite similar players. It depends who's in form, and right at the minute, when we're looking for somebody that's gonna close out the game, then Costello's the one that's got the experience of doing that. Where Dan Edwards is a gamble. Yeah, he may well be able to do it, but it's a gamble. So anyway, Harley, you're 9 and 10. Yeah. Sorry, Dan, I'll come back to you in a minute, mate.
No, you're all right, mate. Go on.
I'd probably go Rodri and Sam Costello. Just give them a run out. As much as I said, Dan Edwards hasn't been affected too much by this long losing run or let's not ruin him with it. Like you see it sometimes where you basically try and get out of a losing rut and you blood a load of young players, hoping that the promise goes through, and then all of a sudden they end up in the same mire because they're not winning then. And
I know I said it tongue in cheek. That was my
ruin
point.
it for the guy.
I know I said it tongue in cheek.
Yeah,
exactly. I said it tongue in cheek, but that's what I meant, Harley. Let him go. I'm not even sure I want him to be starting.
Me and Hugh, Catboy, were having a discussion about this after the game, and we were there thinking, how many of the Welsh regions could beat Wales right now? Because we reckon 3 out of 4 of them probably could. Like we reckon that if the Wales team plays in 4 regions, we reckon the regions are like line score style. We reckon there'd be 3 wins for the regions. Because
Harley's just opened up a whole new conversation that nobody wanted to have. That's a whole load of stuff that nobody wanted to.
That's halfback. Should we go on to centres so I can? And I'll follow myself and say I think we start Johnny Williams and Joe Roberts.
Okay. So why?
Because we're not making yards in the pack. So someone's got to make gain line, and that usually ends up being your 12. Ben Thomas isn't that sort of 12. This is the reason why when we tried Bigger and Owen Williams that one autumn, we ended up resorting to Hadley Parks because Hadley Parks was reliably getting gain line. We just need some punch. And as well, Johnny Williams, I feel like at 13 he was struggling defensively. He was seeming to sit far too narrow, especially on set plays. And Joe Roberts seemed to improve that a bit. I mean, to be honest, the ball got so quick by that point that I think Pete Fox can corral out of that.
It's true.
What I don't understand with that selection, right, is why pick Williams over Roberts at 13 to start with?
Yeah, exactly.
No sense.
Because
to me, it's like how he tries to have Cardiff set up. He wants a strike runner, someone who can make the game because the 12 doesn't. But then
which is a waste of a position
for him to do it. So you might as well just go straight to your 12. If you're going to get your 12 to carry it, you might as well just have a ball carrying 12 and have a proper 13. Yeah. I think the problem is there just isn't a player in Wales who is Ray Lilo who can do it all.
Yeah. So sorry, that one
jockey system works best with.
Yeah. So what were you saying about? So Johnny Williams not at 13, but you'd have him in at 12.
I'd bring him in one and have Joel Roberts start.
You've had your shut up, you've had your bit, Dan.
Yeah, I'd go with the two Scarlets boys, but in the right way round.
Dan, with that, then would you? I think if we're going to two Scarlets boys, I don't disagree. Does it not make more sense to keep Costello at 10 because they play together, the three of them?
Yes, fair shout. Yeah, you got that midfield combination. Yeah, it does.
And I think when we scored that try, the try was Costello, Williams, and Tommy Rogers. So it was that Scarlet kind of combination where Johnny Williams did kind of run a line that went in and then out, and that kind of committed the winger, and that gave Tom Rogers enough space to go in at the corner. So it did kind of work from that sense. It only worked the once though, which was the issue. Okay, so Dan's going with Johnny Williams at inside and Joe Roberts outside. Nick, you're going to go with?
I thought the back three played it right, actually. And if we're going to play it...
No, we're doing centres. We're doing centres because we haven't finished centres, man.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I put my two pennies for it. Yeah, Johnny Williams and Joe Roberts.
Right, okay. I just wanted to make sure. That's all. Okay, now you get your goal. Go. Do the back three. Who you want to go back three?
Well, I don't think the back three played badly.
No, I agree.
I think the opportunity to add. But what's disappointed me a lot is from the coaching team is we're not getting Blair Murray on the ball on those wider arcs where he's got the pace and the sidestepping skills to cause havoc. He's not been brought into the game enough, and I thought from the coaching team, I thought we'd seen more of that. And they've been there now quite a while. They didn't have much time during the Six Nations, but they've had them now for a month, the Welsh-based boys, and I just don't see that enough of that. Blair Murray looks very dangerous, but he's often doing that from long kicks and broken play and so on. Surely there must be ways of working him into the game because he's got good range of skills. He can put a little left-footed grubber in as well, and we're just not bringing him into the game enough. The other two wings did their job fine.
Fine. Dan, your views on the back three?
Yeah, I agree. They were probably the best players on the park for us, weren't they? Along with Faletau. So I'd go with that. And going to Nick's point about Blair Murray, well, if you stretch a defence and you do get into 1-3-3-1, you then have got the ability of that middle pod of three or the second pod of three to play out the back of it. So if you've got a ball, it doesn't have to be a ball player, but anybody from a Ben Thomas perspective, you can put Johnny Williams or Joe Roberts in behind that second pod of three. But then if you double stack him with Blair Murray, then he's on the ball and he's on that outside arc. He's got the ability then to kick in behind, or he's got the ability to be on an outside shoulder. All of a sudden you're starting to expand it. If we're going to play in that 20-meter area again, then apart from his dangerous running in the backfield, he is wasted, isn't he? So you've got to play a bit more structure to get him in the game. But I thought they were okay on the weekend, so I'd stick with the three of them.
Okay, Harley, any changes in the back three? No. Okay.
Yeah,
when I said shut up, I mean. Yeah, when I said shut up, I didn't mean like shut up totally. I meant like just shut up while you've had your say on that one. That's all. Right. So, any changes on the bench? Are we going to stick with a 6-2? Are we? I mean, is it anything? I think we've all agreed D on the bench. Other than that, I mean, the back row cover is the only other place. Who do you put as backs cover? If you're going to start with Rodri Williams, we said about Ruben, didn't we? So.
Yeah, so say you start with, you have Rodri on the bench, then you're looking at, this is where Ben Thomas does come in handy, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you've got him as 10, 12, 15. I know Cardiff fans are throwing things at me now with Ben Thomas at 15, but he can do it.
Yeah.
So, I'd go with that. I'd like to have two locks on the bench. ideally. So if we're not starting, this is where I quite like Plumtree as that sort of lock six. 'Cause I'd rather have that person come on fresh than a six moving in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Which is where I
what
say
you're
if I
saying,
had
you go,
Wainwright and then Plumtree on the bench with Ratty. So I
so you
think
go,
that's
what are we doing? 6-2 split, we're saying, aren't we? So you'd have
Yeah, 60.
the three front rowers, Plumtree,
yeah.
Ratty, and Rafael, for example.
And I think you're
Mm.
covering the pack quite well there.
Anything to add, Nick? Anything?
I think I might be inclined to go 5-3.
You had to do some maths then, didn't you, mate?
Yeah, I did.
You had to.
Well, mate, as we
That's
did the
bring
other
Dan
week,
Edwards.
He was just taking his socks off.
yeah, Dan Edwards and Keelan Giles on the bench.
Oh, that's not at all a one-eyed osprey there at all, Nick. I'd have all my ospreys players on the bench get a cap for the last 2 minutes.
Well,
I get why you want to have Giles on there, but what if a centre goes down?
Then you
Because
put
if you
Blair
say
Murray
Josh
into
Evans at
centre.
13, I am gonna send mean comments to the EBs.
I think we've been there before, haven't we, with moving them into the centre.
Well, your other option, dare I mention the name, to cover 13
Max
or
Page.
wing. Shh.
Ooh, this is not the time to be experimenting, boys. This is not the time to be experimenting. It's especially in defence. Right. Let's do some predictions. I'm not going to bother with wild and stupid predictions this week because any wild and stupid prediction is going to be Wales are going to win. So let's just assume that that's our generic wild and stupid prediction. So Harley, let's start with you, mate. Let's have some score predictions for Japan versus Wales second test on Saturday.
I'm gonna go. I reckon Japan are gonna get better, so I'm gonna go with Japan 28, Wales 19. I think that's it. Basically, where we are.
Oh, bah humbug, I tell you what.
Deary me. Okay, Dan.
Wales 58, Japan 7.
Oh, see, now that's more like it. See, Dan's been on the special juice boys. That's what that one is.
Yeah, everyone thinks that was water he's drinking in his glass.
It's gin, straight gin.
Yes. Nick?
Japan 58, Wales 7.
Okay, Nick's never showing his face in Wales
never,
ever
see,
again.
My prediction doesn't seem so bad now, does it, Lee?
No. So I'm gonna go 24-19 to Wales this week. So same score, flipped around the other way. And I don't care how we do it. In all honesty, if we won 3-0 with a penalty kick in the last 5 minutes, I could not give a monkey's.
No, I think you're right, dude. All jokes aside, that's got
But
to be
I
the
was saying,
mentality.
we were saying
Cup
that
final
last
rugby.
week as well, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we did.
recorded.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So this week's game is an hour later. So kickoff is 10 to 7 instead of 7. 10 to 7. And on S4C, if I'm correct, I think.
Yeah.
And you can
But I
still
think it
watch
might be
that.
S4C red button. So, just check it. Might not be on S4C proper. You might have to go through the S4C click.
S4C click and things like that.
Yeah, just double check.
Okay. Thank you for that, Harley. Right. Okay. That is it for this week, and that is it for the previews of the summer series. Like I say, we will be back next week to review summer series. We were going to do some stuff tonight on the state of Welsh rugby in general, that kind of a thing. So if you want to join us next week, we'll probably cover off that next week as well. If we've still got the soul left in us to do that. But yeah, so 8:15 next week, there'll be a link on our socials. I'll try and get up on Friday. What we are going to do, we're going to try and test it beforehand to make sure it works, which might be an interesting one as well. So if you're a YouTube subscriber and you see something pop up and it goes Rapper's gone live, that's us testing it. If you want to come and mess with our heads, then you're very welcome to, but it'll only be a 5-minute test, I can assure you of that. We'll be back next Monday, 8:15. Link will be on socials. We will be live. It may be a complete disaster. It may be great fun. Who knows? It will be very similar to watching Wales on Saturday morning. So, on that note, gents, I shall wish you good night and farewell, and enjoy your rugby. All the best, gents.
That was WRAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.